Imagine a ship setting sail into the open Atlantic Ocean, mid 20th century, a time when maritime technology was already advanced enough to track vessels, maintain radio communication, and coordinate international rescue operations across vast distances. On board, a trained crew, an experienced captain, engineers, navigation officers, and a fully operational communication system. Everything was normal. Everything was under control. At least, that's what the records suggest. But what if, hours later, that ship never reached its destination? What if it simply vanished, without a storm, without an explosion, without any warning at all? No distress signal, no SOS, no final message, just silence. And here is where the mystery begins. How does something like that even happen in the modern world? How can a fully equipped vessel disappear in an ocean constantly monitored by radar, satellites, and nearby shipping traffic? Why was there no emergency transmission? Why was there no final attempt to call for help? And most importantly, what happened in those last moments before contact was lost forever? The Atlantic Ocean covers more than 70% of Earth's surface. It is one of the most studied oceans in the world, and yet, paradoxically, it is still one of the least understood. We have mapped Mars in higher resolution than parts of our own seabed. We track weather systems in space more precisely than underwater currents in deep ocean regions. And in that vast, unpredictable environment, ships still disappear, completely, without explanation. This story takes place in the Atlantic Ocean, near the infamous Bermuda Triangle region, a zone long associated with unexplained maritime and aviation disappearances. For decades, this area has been the subject of speculation, scientific debate, and countless theories. While most researchers reject anything supernatural, one fact remains uncontested. A significant number of vessels and aircraft have been reported lost without clear cause in this region. And in the mid-20th century, one particular ship became part of that growing list. At the beginning of its journey, nothing appeared unusual. The ship departed on schedule. It followed a standard, well-established route across the Atlantic. Weather reports showed stable conditions. Visibility was clear. Sea activity was within normal parameters. There were no mechanical warnings, no navigation errors, no concerns from the crew. Everything indicated a routine voyage. For several hours, communication remained steady. The ship reported its position regularly. Radio transmissions were clear. Coordinates were confirmed. All systems were functioning as expected. Nothing suggested danger. Nothing suggested failure. And then, suddenly, everything changed. The last radio transmission ended normally. No distress, no alarm, no indication of trouble. And after that final message, silence. Complete silence. At first, no one reacted with panic. Radio communication failures were not uncommon during that period. Atmospheric interference could disrupt signals. Equipment could malfunction temporarily. Delays could occur. So authorities waited. Hours passed, then an entire day, and still no contact. At this stage, concern began to grow, because ships do not simply go silent for extended periods while on established routes. Search protocols were activated. Communication attempts were repeated. Nearby vessels were contacted for visual confirmation, but no one reported seeing the ship after its last known position. A full-scale search and rescue operation was launched across the Atlantic. Naval units scanned the estimated route. Aircraft flew coordinated search patterns over thousands of kilometers. Maritime patrols expanded the search zone. Even satellite and historical tracking data were reviewed retrospectively. Every possible scenario was examined. Every assumption tested.
But the ocean gave nothing back. No distress beacon, no debris field, no floating wreckage, no lifeboats, no oil slick, nothing at all. And that was the first major contradiction in the case. Because in maritime disasters, there are always traces. Even in catastrophic events, explosions, collisions, storms, the ocean eventually reveals something. A fragment of metal, a piece of wood, a survival object, a signal of human presence. But here, there was nothing. Investigators began reconstructing the timeline minute by minute. The last confirmed coordinates placed the ship firmly on its expected route. There were no deviations, no irregular movements, no signs of panic, no distress patterns. First theory, extreme weather. The Atlantic is known for sudden and violent storms. Hurricanes can form rapidly and overwhelm even large vessels. Massive waves can exceed the limits of ship stability. But meteorological reconstruction of the period showed no such system in that region. There was normal ocean activity, but nothing remotely capable of erasing a modern ship without trace. Second theory, mechanical failure. Engine breakdown, fire on board, electrical system collapse, internal explosion, all plausible scenarios. But even in these cases, maritime protocol is clear. The crew almost always sends a distress signal. Even seconds are enough to transmit a warning. Here, there was none. Not even a partial message. No emergency burst transmission. Nothing. Third theory, human factor. Navigation error, internal conflict, panic, mutiny. These possibilities were also considered, but no evidence supported them. No recovered bodies, no lifeboats, no survival equipment, no confirmed distress activity. The absence of physical evidence made this theory equally incomplete. At this point, investigators faced a growing paradox. Every explanation was logically possible, but none of them matched the facts, because the central fact remained unchanged: total disappearance without trace. Research then shifted from the ship itself to the environment it disappeared in. The Atlantic Ocean remains one of the least explored environments on Earth. Large sections of its seabed are still unmapped. Deep currents shift unpredictably. Underwater terrain can swallow objects and conceal them indefinitely. Recovery operations in deep ocean zones are extremely limited, which leads to a simple but unsettling conclusion. If something disappears here, it may never be recovered. But there was another, more disturbing possibility that investigators could not ignore. What if the event was not instantaneous? What if the disappearance unfolded in a chain reaction, a sequence of failures occurring too rapidly for human response? A situation where systems failed faster than the crew could react. A moment where communication became impossible before it could even be attempted. Search efforts continued for weeks, then months. Hundreds of kilometers of ocean were scanned repeatedly. Shipping records were rechecked. Nearby vessels were interviewed again and again. But nothing changed. No new evidence, no new signals, no answers. Eventually, the case was officially closed. The ship was declared lost at sea. Cause unknown. But in maritime history, unknown is never the end of the story. It is simply the point where evidence runs out, not where the truth is found. Because this disappearance became more than a single incident. It became a symbol of limitation, a reminder that even in a modern world of satellites, radar, and global tracking systems, human control over the ocean is still incomplete. And yet one question remains unanswered above all others. What truly happened in those final moments? Was it a sudden catastrophe beyond prediction? A rapid chain of failures unfolding too fast to stop? Or something we still do not fully understand about the ocean itself?
The ocean does not provide answers. It only preserves silence. And perhaps the most unsettling truth is not that the ship disappeared, but that somewhere, right now, another vessel could be following the same path, without warning, without communication, without a trace. Because even today, despite all technology, the ocean remains one of the last places on Earth where control is still incomplete. And so this story is not just about a lost ship. It is about uncertainty, about the limits of human knowledge, and about how quickly certainty can dissolve into nothing.